saw something when I was 10 years old that defied every law of reality. A porcelain doll sitting on a chair staring at me. But here's the problem, that doll had burned to ashes years before I was born. So what was I really looking at that day? By the end of this video, you'll understand why I can never look at dolls the same way again. This story involves 3 generations of women, a forbidden ritual, and an object that refuses to stay dead. But to understand what happened to me, we need to go back to the day my mother ran screaming from her childhood home and never returned. Years before I existed, my mother made a terrible mistake. She was young, curious, and her sister convinced her to participate in a spiritism session at my grandmother's house. Now, my mother and grandmother never got along. Their relationship was already fractured. But what happened that night shattered any chance of reconciliation. During the ritual, as the participants tried to contact the other side, something in the room responded. But it wasn't a voice. It wasn't a knock. It was a doll. A porcelain doll sitting across the room turned its head and blinked while staring directly at my mother. She fled the house in pure terror and avoided returning for years. That doll became the symbol of everything dark and twisted about that place. And here's what you need to remember for later. That doll had blonde, wavy hair, wore a green dress, and my grandmother kept it on a small wrought iron chair. But that doll wouldn't stay confined to my mother's nightmares. Because decades later, I would see her too. July 2011. I'm 10 years old, and for the first time in my life, I'm standing inside my grandmother's house. My mother had taken the keys while Grandma was away. She still couldn't face her even after all those years. My sister and I were exploring while Mom was in another room. The house felt heavy, old, like it was holding its breath. And that's when I saw her. At the bottom of the staircase, there was a small wrought iron chair, and sitting on it was a porcelain doll. She had wavy blonde hair. She wore a green dress, and between her legs was a small bowl of lavender. Now, I didn't think anything of it at first. I was 10. It was just a doll sitting on a chair in an old house. Whatever, right? So I casually mentioned it to my mom. That's when everything changed. My mother's face drained of all color. She grabbed me by the shoulders and started firing questions. What did the doll look like? What was she wearing? Where exactly did you see her? With each detail I gave, she became more frantic. Because the doll I was describing, hair, dress, chair, everything, was identical to the doll from the ritual, the one that had haunted her for decades. But here's where this story goes from strange to impossible. My mother immediately called my grandmother, demanding to know if she'd kept the doll, if this was some kind of sick joke. My grandmother's answer was definitive. There is no doll. There hasn't been one for years. Years earlier, there had been a kitchen fire, an accident that consumed part of the house, including the area where that doll had been kept. Everything burned. Everything, except one thing. The wrought iron chair. The same chair where I had just seen a doll that shouldn't exist, sitting and staring at me. So let me be absolutely clear about what happened. I saw in perfect detail a doll that had been destroyed years before I was born. A doll I had never been told about. A doll that had terrorized my mother during that ritual. We returned to the house later. This time, I saw nothing. But I couldn't bring myself to look directly at that chair. Some part of me was terrified she'd be there again, staring back at me. So what did I see? Was it a hallucination? A residual haunting? Some kind of psychic echo of an object that once existed? Did the ritual my mother performed years ago create a doorway that never fully closed? Or was it something else entirely? I've never found a rational explanation. And honestly, I don't know if I want one anymore. What I do know is this. Since that day, I can't be around dolls. Not porcelain ones, not any kind. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm always wondering, am I seeing what's really there? Or am I seeing what wants to be seen? If you've experienced something you can't explain, drop it in the comments below. And if this story gave you chills, hit that like button and subscribe for more true paranormal encounters. Because reality isn't always as solid as we think it is.
I don't believe in ghosts. I never have. But I need you to explain something to me. Because when I was 7 years old, I touched my little brother on the shoulder, and he vanished into thin air. And what I saw crawl under my bed afterwards, that's the part that still keeps me up at night. This happened when I was around 6 or 7 years old. My sister was 8 or 9, and we shared a bedroom in this flat my family was renting. Now, here's what you need to know about this place. It was new. Recently built, clean, nothing creepy about it at all. But what they built it on? That's important. Old farmlands, the kind of land with history you don't ask too many questions about. The house had this long, steep staircase that ended just a few meters from the back door. Our bedroom? Right at the top, with a perfect side view of those stairs. One night, my sister and I were asleep, door wide open like always, and that's when we heard it, someone crying, soft, quiet sobbing coming from the staircase. It was Nathan, our younger brother, just sitting there on the bottom step, curled up, crying. Now here's the thing. We were kids, annoyed kids who just wanted to sleep, so we did what any bratty older siblings would do. Nathan, why are you crying? Nathan, go to bed, it's late. But he just kept crying, didn't respond, didn't move, just sobbing in the moonlight. I remember he was illuminated by this soft glow from the moon. I could see him clearly, his little figure curled up, shoulders shaking. My sister and I started bickering, classic sibling stuff. You go check on him. No, you go. We watched him for what felt like forever. He wasn't stopping. Eventually, we decided we'd both go. Safety in numbers, right? We walked down those stairs together, got closer, closer. I could still hear his quiet sobs. I could still see him there. And then I reached out and put my hand on his shoulder. He disappeared. The crying stopped. Instantly, like someone hit a mute button. I waved my hand through the air where he'd just been sitting. Nothing. I patted the step. Nothing. My sister saw it too. We both did. We freaked out, ran back to our beds, dove under the blankets like they were some kind of magic shield. But we forgot one thing. We forgot to close the door. I don't know what made me look. Maybe the feeling of being watched. But I peeked out from under my blanket, and I saw it. This thing. This fuzzy black mass. Not quite solid, not quite smoke. Just wrong. And it was moving. It rolled, and I mean rolled, not walked, from the stairs across our bedroom floor and went straight under my bed. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. I pulled that blanket over my head and I stayed there until morning. When we woke up the next day, my sister and I looked at each other. We both started talking at the same time, retelling the exact same story, same details, same sequence of events. For years, we told ourselves it was a shared dream, some weird kid brain nightmare we both had at the same time. But here's what I can't explain. We both saw him. We both heard him. I felt him under my hand before he vanished. And that thing under the bed? I saw that alone. Nothing like that ever happened again in that house. Not once. And I don't believe in ghosts. I really don't. But people don't just disappear when you touch them. So I'm asking you, what did we see that night? Because I've spent 20 years trying to convince myself it was nothing. And I still can't. If you've ever experienced something like this, drop it in the comments. Because I need to know I'm not the only one who's touched something that shouldn't exist. And if you ever hear a child crying in the dark, maybe don't go check on them.
I should have thrown that tape away the moment I found it. But curiosity, that's what gets us killed, isn't it? I never believed in curses or haunted objects or any of that paranormal junk. But that was before room 47. I was driving cross-country after my sister's funeral. I didn't want to talk to anyone, just drive until the world disappeared behind me. It was around 11 p.m. when the rain got too heavy. The only light for miles was this old neon sign that read, "Sunset Inn, vacancy." The clerk didn't look up from his newspaper when I walked in, just slid a key across the counter and muttered, "Room 47, no smile, no receipt, no ID check, just that." Inside, the room smelled like wet carpet and something else. Metallic, like rust or dried blood. The TV was one of those old box kinds. On the nightstand sat a VHS tape, no label, just the number 47 written in black marker. I should have ignored it. Instead, I wiped the dust off the TV, slid the tape in, and hit play. It was this room. Same furniture, same curtains. Only, it was cleaner, brighter. A man sat on the bed staring at the camera. He didn't speak, didn't move, just stared. Then he whispered something. I rewound it, turned up the volume. It sounded like, "Don't watch." I laughed nervously. Probably an art student prank or something. I hit stop, and that's when I heard it. A knock at the door. 2 knocks, 3 knocks. Then silence. I looked through the peephole. Nothing but the hallway. But when I opened the door, there was something on the floor. A second tape. This one marked 48. When I played it, the man was gone. The bed was empty. But there was movement in the background. A figure half hidden in the curtains. The camera slowly zoomed toward it, and I realized with a jolt that was me. Same clothes, same room. The figure turned its head and smiled. That's when the TV shut off on its own. Then, a faint whisper from behind me.
"You're next."
I spun around. Nothing. Checked the hallway. Empty. But when I came back inside, the VHS tape was gone. In its place was a third one sitting neatly on the bed. I didn't play it. I grabbed my keys, bolted out the door, ran to the front desk. But the lobby was completely empty. No clerk, no sound. Even the rain outside had stopped. When I looked out the window, the parking lot was different. There were no cars, no puddles, just dirt. Like the place had been abandoned for decades. I tried to tell myself I was dreaming, hallucinating, whatever. But when I went back to the room, the TV was already on, and it was playing live footage of me standing in the doorway watching the TV. I walked closer. On screen, I walked closer too. Then my on-screen reflection whispered,
"Sit down."
Against all reason, I sat on the bed. The TV switched to the third tape automatically. It started with a timestamp, October 5th, 2025, 12:14 a.m. That was now, the same time on my phone. On screen, the camera faced the door. Someone was knocking. Then the door opened, and I walked in holding a fourth tape. The me on screen set the new tape on the bed, then turned toward the camera, eyes wide, whispering,
"If you're watching this, leave now."
The TV flickered. The screen cut to static. And then I heard it. 3 knocks at the door again. Same rhythm as before. I didn't open it this time, but I didn't need to, because a voice spoke from the other side.
"It's your turn."
I remember blacking out after that. When I woke up, it was morning. Sunlight streaming through the blinds. Everything looked normal again. No tapes, no static. The clerk was back at the front desk, whistling like nothing happened. He looked up and said, "Sleep well?" I wanted to scream at him, but I didn't. I just left. When I finally got home, I unpacked my bag, and sitting right on top of my clothes was that fourth tape. No label, just the number 49.